Hey everyone, my name is Robert Mercado and welcome to the Invincible with God podcast. Since this is the first one, let me tell you a little bit about this podcast and what you could expect. We're going to dive into inspiring stories, powerful messages, uplifting conversations that'll empower you to embrace your faith and live a life of strength and purpose. You'll also learn why living an invincible life with God will transform your life. See, being invincible is not allowing anything to stop you from achieving what you want, no matter what the circumstance or what comes in your way. Living an invincible life in a fleshly driven way will only get you so far, but living an invincible life in a spirit driven way has no limits whatsoever. See, you could be a kind and loving person, but not have the strength to keep going if someone says or does something to hurt your feelings. You could be a very smart person, but not have the drive or motivation to keep going if things get tough. You could be a very determined person, but not have the ability to try different solutions if one way doesn't work out. See, there's a lot of different qualities a person can have, although being invincible is the key quality to resolving all the problems in your life. I know that might sound a little too easy, but it's the truth. Let me tell you a little bit about my story and how I thought my world was ending and how I was able to overcome it and moving forward transform my life as well as a lot of other people's lives. So growing up, I always believed I was invincible. As a child, I would climb the tallest trees, daring gravity to pull me down. In high school, I was the center of attention of social events. I made friends very easily. It wasn't a struggle at all. And this sense of invincibility followed me into my adulthood. Any job I landed, I was promoted to higher positions in record time. I worked in the furniture industry and became the youngest and fastest store manager. Another job I did was telemarketing and became one of the top producers out of hundreds of reps. Eventually, I dove into the online marketing space and I became a top leader within only a few months. So nothing was impossible for me, and I did whatever it took to make it happen. If I saw something I wanted, I got it. If I saw someone I wanted to be with, no problem. My confidence soared and I felt untouchable. And success seemed inevitable to me. I embraced every challenge with a fearless heart, right? There was no hesitation in anything that I wanted to get done. And within the last year, I've undergone some of the biggest adversities of my life. My business was taking hits such as the e-commerce stores that I manage being shut down due to platforms changing their policies. In addition to that, a company I was helped building randomly folded overnight, resulting in myself and many others losing a ton of money. Aside from that, I also have some people that was supposed to pay me back a substantial amount of money in the tens of thousands and still until this day have not. So, the enemy was attacking in a lot of different ways. In addition to that, my place of residence was being jeopardized. I was being evicted due to, being arrested on property, a false claim of me entering into someone's apartment. No, I did not step foot into anyone's living space. I rented out the office space on the same floor this person lived. So I had legitimate reasons, for being, in the building, on the floor. During one day while I was in the office, there was so much banging noise and yelling and screaming. Honestly, it sounded like people were killing each other. So I went to find out what was going on. And by the time I got to the front of the apartment door, which had already been opened, it became a lot quieter. A few minutes later, tenant walks from the end of the hallway to the front of her door and starts accusing me of going inside her apartment. I told her there must be a huge misunderstanding because I didn't step 1 foot into your place. Again, the enemy was attacking. I was at risk of having my daughter removed from my life because once her mother found out about this incident, she did her very best trying to leverage this to help her get full custody of our daughter. It was a back and forth thing with custody, and for years we went back and forth, and there's a whole story in that. And so any chance that was available for someone to, or for her to use something that wasn't going in my favor or would look bad on my part. I'm not trying to, say anything bad about her, but she was all for it. She utilized, as much as she could, to attack me in that area. And so the relationship that I was in, it ended because, I allowed everything I was going through to bring out the very worst of me. And, I treated her in a way she didn't deserve. And I became a very angry and non-loving person. And unfortunately, I winded up pushing her out of my life. Just to be clear, this is not my daughter's mother. My daughter's mother and we separated a while ago. And, that was so totally different person. But anyhow, my freedom in this world was also being threatened, all because of the complaint made by the tenant of the complex that I used to live in. And I actually conducted business there too. So long story short, I was being attacked in a lot of areas of my life. And, during these times, it negatively altered the person that I am at the core, as well as the choices I made. It finally came to a point of feeling disoriented. I felt extremely overwhelmed. I was terrified with different situations. My invincibility shattered. It was at this point that I no longer wanted to live a fleshly driven life. And instead, I decided to surrender my life to God to begin living a spirit driven life. During the last few months, I had plenty of time to reflect, and the person I had become led to my downfall. I realized that being invincible was an illusion. It wasn't all that it sounded or made up to be. And I learned the value of humility and the importance of recognizing my limits, that you could only do so much. And that was hard for me to accept, but learning this cost me a lot, including the person that I plan to spend the rest of my life with, amongst, some of the other things that I mentioned as well, which is all key components of my life, or was. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever gone through this in your life? Have you hit rock bottom? Have you ever had everything in your life going against you all at once? Have you ever felt you couldn't catch a break no matter what you did? You ever felt, or been heartbroken? Well, I know exactly how you feel. And in fact, I felt the same way. But here's what I found out. I found a way out. I found an answer. I found a way of living life that it'll never bring me back to that place again of feeling drained mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. I found God during my darkest times, and I surrendered my life over to Him. And through this experience, I discovered a newfound respect for the fragility of life and the people in it. I learned to never allow any adversity that comes my way to change who I am as a person or how I treat others. And I no longer saw myself as invincible, but I found strength in understanding and accepting my vulnerabilities. This was a lesson that taught me that true courage lies in denying our limits, but also in facing them with humility and grace, and being open to accepting help from others without feeling ashamed or embarrassed, right? We always think about what this person thinks or what this situation is going to make me look like. At the end of the day, you got to come to a point where you're like, who cares? And honestly, it's those moments that you are vulnerable that, it's real, right? We all go through struggles. We all go through different things, and we hold ourselves back from admitting it, or, we feel like we're going to look weak. And especially as a man, right? This is something that we never want to show. And I realize that the way to life is not only being invincible, but, it's in being invincible with God, right? No longer having to act like God in my own life and controlling situations and handling everything myself, being so persistent that I tried to force things until I got my way. It only resulted in hitting dead ends and not getting anywhere, right? I chose to let go, and God, when you choose to let go, God relieves you of all of that. God wants to take, He wants to take on your battles and your challenges. He straightens out your crooked paths. He'll protect us from pitfalls and dead ends that lead to nowhere good. See, no more would you need to worry about anything, right? Being frustrated, confused, scared. None of that exists anymore when you allow God to handle and take over in your situation. All He wants is your heart, right? Well, what is meant to happen will happen. And the truth goes the other way around too. What is not meant to happen will not happen. And this is why being invincible with God will absolutely transform your life. See, I've been able to speak on this to many others, whether I'm at the park, walking around my community, at church, as well as online. And now here on this podcast, I'm also looking forward to sharing this and more on stages around the world, continuing to build God's kingdom. And all credit goes to God. Now, maybe to transition a little bit and maybe bring some of these concepts to life as far as, real life examples of people who embody these principles in the Bible. We hear the verse, I could do all things through him who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13, right? Paul wasn't just talking about anything. He was saying he found the ability to be content no matter what his situation looked like because of Christ who gave him the strength to be content, right? Another example of Apostle Paul embraced challenges. Throughout his ministry, Paul faced numerous hardships, including imprisonment, beating, shipwrecks, constant threats to his life. See, despite the challenges, Paul remained steadfast in his faith and mission to spread the gospel. Another example is 2 Corinthians 11:24-28. Paul speaks on these trials. He says, 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a life and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I've known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I've been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. See, Paul's perseverance and strong faith in the and him facing the adversities, they serve as a powerful example of him embracing these challenges with a committed spirit. He wasn't just saying, oh, it is what it is. I'm just going to deal with it. Or I'm going to let this, happen and let it destroy my life. He had faith, right, through these adversities. Another example of someone in the Bible who practiced self-discipline is Daniel. Throughout the book of Daniel, his life exemplifies self-control, faithfulness, unwavering commitment to God, despite numerous challenges and temptations. One instance is found in Daniel 1:8-16, when Daniel and his friends were taken to Babylon and selected to serve in the king's palace. They were offered rich foods and wine from the king's table. However, Daniel resolved not to defile himself with these offerings. Here's what Daniel said in the word. Here's what it says in the word. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. And he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel, but the official told Daniel, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other men your age? The king would then have my head because of you. See, Daniel then said to the guard whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food and treat your servants in accordance to what you see. So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. Daniel's commitment to maintaining his dietary principle, guys, and his devotion to God is a clear example of self-discipline, right? Despite the risk of displeasing the king and facing potential consequences, Daniel, he adhered to his convictions. He demonstrated remarkable self-control, right? This showed dedication. These individuals didn't have superpowers. In fact, they were people that lacked in many areas. They simply developed the mindset and the tools necessary to become invincible in their own lives. Guys, to begin embarking on this invincible new journey with God's guidance every step of the way, I'm going to encourage you to raise your level of faith. Right? For that to begin, you must believe it first, and through writing and reading it daily, you will more and more, right? I got affirmations. I got things that I write down and I read every day. What I would encourage you to do is take a pen and piece of paper now. Yes, we're doing this the old-fashioned way. Don't write it in your notes in your phone, which you could do that in addition, but write it down. Write down, my faith in the Lord gets stronger every day. Write that one down. My faith in the Lord gets stronger every day. Keep that paper and read it out loud every day. And we'll continue adding more to that. Keep that paper to the side and we'll keep adding more to it as we have, more of these podcasts. See, guys, truth is that believing in the possibility of things going the way, they're supposed to, even when they don't feel or look like it at all, that's faith. That's raising your belief level. Faith means that you have peace even when you don't have all the answers. Listen, there's times that God doesn't want you to have the answers. We ask, God, please tell me why this is happening. God, tell me why this person is doing this, why this is happening in my life. And you may not get the answers right away. You may not get the answers for a while, and there's a reason for that. And you will have the answers for, those questions you had at the right time, but that'll also answer why he didn't answer those questions at the time you asked. But it's about having faith, guys. I'm personally, realizing it more and more, and we trust that God knows best, right? And only wants the best for us. He has unconditional love for us. See, I'm looking forward to discovering together with you guys how raising our faith can make us truly live a life, an invincible life, but not only an invincible life with God. So as we wrap up this first episode, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you being here and supporting this and looking forward to the many more to come. Remember that living an invincible life is a journey. It's not a destination. It's about continuous improvement and learning. Every step you take towards building resilience, adaptability, a positive mindset, it'll all bring you closer to living a truly invincible life. So let's close in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for helping me to put this podcast together. Thank you for all the blessings and all the people that are able to listen to this. And whether it's, on this podcast or another podcast, God, allow your voice, allow your words to transpire into this podcast. Use my body and use me as a vessel to let everyone know and remind them that you have unconditional love. You only want their heart. You want us to trust and believe in you even when it doesn't make sense at all, because you are the author of our lives. You are the author of our books. As far as if our life is a book, you wrote everything, the beginning, the end, the middle, all the parts. And as long as we continue trusting in you, our life will be a lot more smoother. It'll be a lot less headaches. You don't want us to have stress. You don't want us to have headaches. You don't want us to have frustration and worry and fear, because you know what? That's all the enemy. And you are the one and only. You're the beginning and the end, Lord. And we praise you and we worship you. And we thank you for all the blessings that you have put into our lives, whether we realize it or not. There's people listening to this podcast that may not be saved yet by you. And I was at that point in my life too, at a certain point. But I'm so glad I'm at a point that you saved my life, Lord. And I appreciate that. And forevermore, from this day, from that day moving forward, I will continue serving you every day. And so this is a big inspiration of why you, Lord, was an inspiration of why I put this podcast together. And, I thank you, and, allow yourself, to shine in our lives. Send your ministering angels to protect us, to heal those that may have disease or may not be feeling well, or, their mindset is not where it's supposed to be. Guide us and allow us to help us to think more like you and have a heart more like you, because we know you're pure and you already surrendered so much for us. And we, have no reason to have any excuses for giving you a few minutes a day or, a little bit of time, or speaking to you, building a relationship with you and continuing that journey with you. And Lord, thank you so much for everything. And we look forward to having an invincible life with you by our side. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you guys for listening to Invincible with God. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share, subscribe, leave a comment. You could also follow us on social media for more tips and inspiration. Guys, have an invincible week, and we'll see you next time.